Hello. Welcome to Game Center Live. Oh, the video is kind of choppy now. Oh well. Welcome to Game Center Live. This is our weekly talk show here at NYU Game Center, which is a game design program here in New York City. We offer 4-year BFAs and 2-year MFAs in the art of game design. We have a really great show for you today. Today, after some news and announcements, we will be trying to learn how to play Yu-Gi-Oh! PlayStation 2 version of Yu-Gi-Oh! I don't know anything about Yu-Gi-Oh! So I'm hoping to learn a lot today. Then, as usual, the last half of this program will be game industry news and hot takes, a segment we call the Discourse. Oh my god, the camera's died again. Hold on. No, there's nothing you can do. Oh my god. Is it on? Is it okay? Oh, Jesus Christ. Okay, we're back for a little while. Technology's awful. Let's ban technology. Anyway, so that's what we have for you today, and that's with Naomi Clark and Frank Lance, faculty here at NYU Game Center. So hang out for the next hour or so. If you have comments for us, please leave them in the chat, and we'll try to get around to them. But we're kind of old. We don't know how to look at Twitch chat sometimes, so bear with us. Let's start with some morning announcements and events. Although it's not really morning here, it's more like noon right now, but let's see, where's my show? Okay, here. First of all, Playtest Thursday is an event we host every Thursday, 5:30 to 7 p.m. here at NYU Game Center in downtown Brooklyn. That's just at 370 J Street on the 6th floor lounge. This is an event where you come, bring your game, and hang out, get some feedback on your game, play test it and stuff. This is open to both students and the public, and there's also free pizza, so what's not to love? So again, that's Playtest Thursday tonight, 5:30 to 7 p.m. Next, this is our building where we currently are right here. This is 370 J Street. It's the former MTA headquarters, believe it or not, but NYU has purchased and is renovating this building, and now we're here. If you'd like to come visit us at 370 J Street, we encourage you to email us or reach out or just talk to someone here in our office or call or something. If you show up unannounced, I mean, that's not the worst thing, but we might be too busy like doing our jobs to like talk with you and hang out with you and stuff. So if you want the full tour or experience, it's really best to arrange something by calling us or emailing us or something like that. In other news, we're hosting a wonderful event. I believe it is next Thursday, MFA to AAA with one of our students, with one of our alumni, Elise. She went on to work in AAA on the game Days Gone, which I'm told is a very lovely AAA violent open world zombie thing, and you're like a guy with a motorcycle, it looks like, and you're in the mountains. What's not to love? Seems really beautiful. So that is next Thursday, 7 p.m. on the 12th floor of 370 J Street. Please visit our website, gamecenter.nyu.edu, to sign up for some free tickets for that event. I believe Elise will be talking about a lot of her experience about shifting from a student mindset to working in AAA on a big budget, cool, photorealistic, violent game. So come visit us next week for that. And another weekly thing we do here is Killer Queen 5v5 Fridays. Killer Queen 5v5 Fridays are where you come hang out on Friday, I believe at 7 p.m., 6 p.m., somewhere around there, and you learn how to play Killer Queen, which is like a competitive, deconstructed MOBA platforming 5v5 game. Very fun. We have 2 Killer Queen cabinets behind me. Well, you can't really see them, but they are behind me. They are on free play, and just come hang out, learn how to play Killer Queen from some of the best Killer Queen players in the entire world, literally. And if you want more information on that, talk to Professor Charles Pratt, or you can join the Killer Queen NYC Facebook group for more information on that. We're also running an event this Saturday. This is called the Folk Game Game Jam. A folk game, if you're not familiar, is a game that isn't a video game. It's not a board game. It's not a sport. What is it? It's a game that belongs to the folk, the people, the community. And Folk Game Game Jam is this Saturday, I believe noon to 3 p.m., 1 to 4 p.m., somewhere in the afternoon. Wait, no, I got that totally wrong. It's 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. here, 370 J Street, 6th. It's open only to NYU students, and this is just a fun, kind of low intensity, low impact jam. So if you find game jams to be usually really stressful, this is a really good opportunity to just hang out and remember the fun of making games. Especially if you're a student, it can get very stressful this time of year. It's good to remember that making games can be fun sometimes and not this terrible burden that we put on you sometimes. If you want more information on that, please visit folkgamegamejam.com. Wow, they registered a custom domain for that. It's pretty fancy. It's pretty snazzy. I'm not surprised it was available. Okay, and then last news item, Code Help help desks have been extended on Tuesdays and Wednesdays until 8 p.m. So this is Code Help after dark. It's night Code Help. This is a really good opportunity for where if you're working on a project and you're crunching, even though we don't want you to crunch, but if you're doing it anyway for some reason, and you need some help, urgent help here, we staff Code Help desks late at night, Tuesdays and Wednesdays. And of course, we also have other help desks that are running in 3D art, in writing, and also in, I think, 2D art as well. Check our hours for that. The hours should be down on that scrolling marquee down at the bottom of the screen. Please make use of these resources. We put a lot of time and effort into organizing these for you to make sure you are supported in your work. And if you're not an NYU student, don't come to help desk. This isn't for you. It's for us. Okay, that's it for announcements. As always, please visit our website, gamecenter.nyu.edu, or visit us on Facebook or Twitter or YouTube or Twitch, which is maybe what you're watching us on right now. Okay, moving on. How do I do this? Oops. Moving on, we're going to move to our first segment of the day, which is where we're going to learn how to play Yu-Gi-Oh! Duelists of the Roses, which is one of the better regarded Yu-Gi-Oh! Games, I'm told. I don't know much about this. This is one of the better regarded Yu-Gi-Oh! Games for the PS2. But the student who's supposed to be teaching us how to play is unfortunately having subway troubles, so I'm going to stall for a little bit. In the meantime, how about our guest host here, Matt Parker, also faculty here at Game Center. Let's get you mic'd up.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, thank you for coming on. Oh, we actually have a question in the chat. I'm sorry, I missed this. Unparalleled Dev asks in the chat, so is hopscotch a folk game? I believe so.
Yes. And when you said like not a sport, like lots of sports I think are like start as folk games at least.
When I think of sport, I think of like money. It's been monetized by a league, and I think folk games cannot be easily monetized. Like there's no pro hopscotch league.
You know what?
Unfortunately,
I think we've got our stall right now. Let's look up to see if there's a pro hopscotch.
Oh my god!
I found in the past there's definitely pro horseshoes. Like that is a thing. That
Did you turn on your mic?
My mic not now.
Hold down the on button until it turns orange.
Button.
Yeah, there.
I thought you did that.
Sorry.
That was mine.
Okay, now it's on. Cool.
So let's look up if there's a pro hopscotch league.
Okay, we can try that until the student gets
Quick
here.
Google. Just a quick Google.
You know, this is just how the New York City subway runs. It breaks down the least convenient way. Pro hopscotch, is that what I'm searching for?
Yeah, for hopscotch. Let's see. Get it up there. Boom.
When I search for pro hopscotch, it gives me a
How
coding
about
website.
professional hopscotch league?
I think you're kind of just. I think we're
There's
flailing
so many
here.
things in the world.
I think the people are demanding Yu-Gi-Oh. We
American
might need to.
hopscotch league.
38 likes? That like
Listen,
no
I didn't say it was
one.
popular. I said that-
That's like less than popular. That's like they couldn't even get their friends to like it.
Maybe that was all their friends.
Did you make this Facebook page
Just
with
before I came on
38
the
likes?
air, yeah,
Is
and I
that what
liked it
happened?
38 times.
Oh Jesus
myself.
Christ! Okay, do not search for pro hopscotch league.
I
You're
am
just gonna be
even thinking
disappointed.
it depends on what your
very sad.
expectations are, I'd say.
Let's change over to Yu-Gi-Oh and try to figure out this
Sure.
inscrutable thing that neither of us know about until backup arrives.
I know a little about it, but I'm not sure it's should I just start playing?
Yes, please. Okay, so this is Yu-Gi-Oh. Yu-Gi-Oh is a. I've seen some of the anime. I know there's like a guy named like Kaiba who's bad, and I believe
Kaiba,
the
guys.
protagonist
It's loading.
is the protagonist named Yu-Gi-Oh. Is that his name?
Yes.
Okay, let's just say Mr. Yu-Gi-Oh. Oh, the British Empire in the
The
1480s.
game audio is a tad low.
It's a tad loud. Let's bring this down.
Sorry.
Okay, the British Empire in the 1480s. Okay, let's continue. You have to press button. The Wars of the Roses. Wait, that's like an actual historical event.
I did not think it was that.
What does an anime card game have to do with British history? Okay. Wait, what? Wait, what? That's Henry Tudor? What? That's not what Henry Tudor looks like. What?
Wait.
That's what Henry Tudor looks like.
Was Henry Tudor? Is that
Oh, Yu-Gi-Oh! Oh, wait, his name is Yu-Gi-Oh?
But he was actually Henry Tudor?
Wait, his name is literally Yu-Gi-Oh? Okay, keep going. He's being forced to... Okay, the Lancassetto. Oh, he's a villain. He looks like a bad guy. A powerful, okay, lacking duelist, defeatless being, or the Lancastrian. Oh, the game's still too loud? I'm sorry, let me mix it
Skipping
down.
faster.
Is it still too loud? Let me know. We don't have sound on, because otherwise that would be messing up.
Help. Is this if we're currently playing a movie where it's
Okay.
like right over to our Twitch game?
What's going on?
Assistant. Can I just skip this? This is.
No, this is important. Maybe they're going to teach us how to play Yu-Gi-Oh right
I think it's
now.
unlikely. This is.
There was true to the legend of the Rose duelist. Lady Margaret. Wait, what? They're just throwing all these names at us. I don't even... Matt, I think this game wasn't intended for us.
Is that what you're saying?
I don't think we're the intended
I think
audience
there's a
for
lot
this
of
game.
reading for this game. I wanted to get to the game playing, but maybe
How
you
does-
guys should be paying more attention to the story.
I don't...
Allow me to introduce. I'm trying to read this
Okay.
like Jay-Z saying.
No, keep going, keep going. We need to get to the game.
Okay. It's okay. It could be louder. You want it to sound louder now?
We could be louder. That's what Jeff is saying. Okay, let's bump us up a little bit. How about that? Is that good?
I'm gonna use the name that I used when I was playing California games as a kid. That had
Matt. Oh, you get to put your name in. Wait, so we're not playing as Yu-Gi-Oh! We're playing as
Yeah, I
whoever.
mean, in a lot of these sort of JRPG things, you get to put your own name, right?
Matt's mic is low. Thank you for the feedback.
Okay. Did I press both of these to enter? There's one of them? Nope. No.
Oh my god, have you ever...
There's a thing that says enter.
But you need to... Wait, how do you finish
Oh,
entering the name?
yeah, that's what
Wait, that doesn't
how
make
it
sense. There's
is.
nothing... You press... Wait, what's EDT? What's EDT mean? Edit?
I guess that's
Accept?
advanced. Yeah.
I don't know what...
Yeah.
Oh my god, oh thank god. Okay, our student is here
We're
to
doing-
teach us what Yu-Gi-Oh! is.
My name is Matt DeBesta. Matt DeBesta.
I'm sorry. Okay, let's get you mic'd up. So our Student is here. Thank you so much. I'm sorry the New York subway has betrayed you. Please come over here.
I hope none of this text I'm skipping is important.
I don't know. We'll
that
find
wasn't
out.
like the reason you wanted to play this, 'cause-
Okay. Move over here.
Okay.
Let me get your mic turned on.
I'm gonna lead us to victory. So that's where we're at. If you were wondering how far we got into the game, it's the part where Simon McMoran.
There's a lot of text in this.
There's a lot of text, yeah.
You've played this game before, Mary, right?
Yeah, I have, but
Okay, cool.
I guess I don't remember how much text there was.
There's a lot. So, from my perspective, maybe you disagree with this, I would say this is too much text at the beginning of a video game. Should I play a practice duel?
Yeah.
Let's do it.
Also, Mary, if Matt is being incompetent at any point, feel free to just take the controller from him.
I mean, I think Naomi gave really good feedback. You just gotta get the Blue Eyes White Dragon, and that's it.
Get Blue Eyes White Dragon. Yes.
Can't lose.
Yes.
So we're going with
Jesus
that one.
Christ. Okay.
Never even watched that show. Okay.
You've never even watched? Okay.
I watched the
Keep
first
going.
episode. Let's start with the
We're gonna be
basics
great.
of
This is gonna
dueling.
go really well.
Okay. Let's start with the basics of dueling. First, let me show you how to summon a monster.
Oh, it
Please do.
teaches you how to play.
Yeah. Okay, but I'm skipping it. You're just gonna tell me what to do, right? I don't
Yeah.
have to read this?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, what do I do? Dark Magician? I think I just press a button.
Oh, it's gonna walk you through that tutorial whether or not you want it.
Okay, so Dark Magician it is then.
Yeah.
Place the monster in the position directly in front of you with the card leader. And that reserves. Okay,
So it's just showing you where you can attack.
Yep, so that's my current hand. Only one monster. Summon the monster requires an amount of power. That's my power up there with the Blinky Mickey hand. Spot currently. So, why am I playing this game? Why don't you tell me a little bit about
Because
what
this
makes
is
this game great?
the only deck building game that I would ever play.
Wow.
period.
Why is that?
Well-
what have you got against Dominion is really the question right now.
It just was never accessible to me growing up. Yu-Gi-Oh! I think, at least for the neighborhood that I grew up in, was the popular game. Like Pokemon was kind of famous, but in terms of like actually playing with cards, Pokemon didn't really serve that purpose for us. It was more of a TV show. And this, even though it was a TV show, ended up being more popular as a card game because of tournaments and like all that great community building that Yu-Gi-Oh! Did very early on. They had magazines and stuff, and they would do like fan art and all of that wonderful stuff. So an interesting thing is that also Yu-Gi-Oh! Comes from the manga, and the manga is much darker. The American like audiences were given a very nice version of what happens in the manga. So when you defeat characters that are bad, essentially you send them to the Shadow Realm. But really, in the manga, it was like you're sending them to hell.
Sure.
So
That's where you send your enemies, right?
yeah.
You want to send them somewhere nice.
So the interesting part was that like I guess the monsters were holographic, and back then we didn't really have holographic capabilities.
By
So-
holographic, you mean like they are holographic? They're pretending to be holographic.
Just as
but
like an
this is
idea
You
of
didn't have like
like
an actual hologram floating in front of you as you're playing this game.
no, but that was the hope. I think it was
Okay.
like every kid's hope that like eventually we would have this like dual disc situation that came out in front of us, and like we could actually see the monsters reacting to. So it was kind of just envisioning like advanced tech, which was the interesting part about Yu-Gi-Oh!
So
Advanced tech for card games.
sure. And so the game, this video game, lets you imagine that you were.
That you're like summoning them, and that the cards actually have some sort of spirit. So like even in the show or when you play it, I guess you feel like that card deck is associated with you personally. I guess maybe it draws a little bit from maybe tarot as well. The idea that like you are bonded to these cards and you've selected them for a very specific reason, not just to like defeat the enemy, but that those cards are sort of you.
But so when you say a deck building game, and correct me if I'm wrong about this, I always thought Yu-Gi-Oh was more of a just sort of a CCG, sort of like you're like a Magic the Gathering style thing. You're not like building your deck as you're going, right?
Oh no, sorry. Yeah, that's
Okay.
what I mean.
Uh, And so right now, I just burned something up. Okay, both monsters are eliminated. Neither player suffered any damage to their LPs. Now let's take a look at the defense position. So there's a lot to get up to speed on this, right?
Looks like it.
There's a lot going on here. When was the last time you played Yu-Gi-Oh? Let's be honest.
It's been a while, but when I played it quite a lot.
When was the last time you played this video game?
It's been a while.
It's been a
been a
spell. How do the graphics hold up to you?
But Mary, walk
It's
us
still
through
pretty
what's
good.
happening.
Yeah.
What's going on?
Yeah. Who's on the one? I'm just pressing buttons here.
So essentially, they're showing you all the different card types, and they're showing you the positions on the field. There's basically a row of like magic and trap cards that get activated per turn, and you have some cards that are up in front fighting each other. Some you'll see are in a different position. If they're vertical, that means they're in attack position. If they're horizontal, they're defending. And then you can play magic cards essentially to power up or do something to the opponent. Trap cards are only ever activated if someone's attacking you essentially as a defense, sort of. It's like a, yeah.
So, and to be clear, when you played this game, you'd already been playing the card game, or because I'm just saying this is a lot of instruction for a late '90s video game.
Yeah, I'm kind of surprised that there is this much text because I thought it would send you to a 2v2 at the very beginning. I didn't know, was this an option? Was it not just story
It
mode
asked
and
if you
2v2?
wanted a tutorial or if you wanted to
Oh, okay.
just start playing the game. We assumed that the tutorial was the way to go because we didn't realize it would be 8 years, and that. It
Oh
would
no,
be
this really
stuff.
like
This is
acts
like
as though you
everything
have
in the
no
game.
idea. Yeah.
Oh, I don't. To be clear, I mean I played card games before, but not Yu-Gi-Oh. I see that there's some tapping of cards occurring.
Yes.
It does feel very much like, okay, that we're just going to teach you everything there is to know about this card game. Okay. Going forward, it seems like most likely most people who have played this game will already have played the card game. Is that your?
No, yeah, absolutely. I think the reason I played this one the most is because it had, unlike I think the first Yu-Gi-Oh card game, they didn't really have like an expanded character list, and this sort of also reinforced like houses, so you have kind of that feeling that you're on teams, and you can access more characters as the game goes on. So that was kind of the interesting thing to this version of the game.
So I was not aware that Yu-Gi-Oh is tutor themed. Is that something that comes up a lot?
No,
that's
it was like weirdly just for this.
just for this game.
Yeah.
So
like
wait, is
there
that
are like
normally tutored
weird
games?
themed things that they do with the animated show too. Like they'll rehash it. I mean, it's the same game, but they'll rehash it with like a different spin or a different take. The newer one is like I think just more high tech and like cyberpunk looking-ish.
I mean, I guess if you want to appeal to the youth of the late '90s, what you're going to do is reference the 1480s War of the Roses, because that's what the kids in those days were all about. They were like, "This is." It would make sense you would theme it with such trendy.
It was pretty fun. It was pretty cool.
Yeah, it seems like such a weird decision. What made them?
It is a
were they
weird
trying
decision,
To teach history? Was there
But
like
I feel like it's already weird enough as it is, so like adding one more weird element isn't gonna make much of a difference.
Sure. Are we still doing the tutorial? When do we play the game? Okay, this is
You
important.
could like quit out a tutorial.
Can
and
I?
play a game. I don't know how.
Yeah, I tried to do that before, and they told me not to quit so easily. So it feels like I can't. Like, they literally gave me the option and told me not to take that up. Like,
But why don't you just quit anyway?
just quit the game? Like, hit the select button? Which is the button that... Okay. I'm loading something. The loading scene is, a loading scene. Okay, Simon. Yes, that is me, Matt the Besta.
Okay.
You have 5 minutes left to actually play Yu-Gi-Oh!
I'm trying. There's still a lot of text that I have to skip through. A lot of flavor here. This is a flavorful game. Okay. How do I'm just gonna choose
So now
these
just
cards?
choose one. Yeah.
Which one do you think I should choose?
Probably one with an effect is going to be more fun. So that one.
Oh, this one?
Yeah.
Okay. Done. Let's go. Yes, I have. Okay. And so I'm basically just playing this card game against an AI,
Yes.
against Dragonface over here.
Yes.
Okay.
That is Seto Kaiba.
Actually, it's Simon McMorrin in this game, apparently. I don't know enough about the War of the Roses to actually know if that is a actual historical. There's a weird part before where they referred to Yu-Gi-Oh! As also Henry Tudor. So I don't know. Not exactly clear on what the relationship is there.
I'm fairly certain the War of the Roses like never actually makes it into the animated series. If I'm not mistaken. This is just like a weird universe that exists solely in this game, which is maybe why there's no Yu-Gi-Oh games.
So this
Newer
game
Yu-Gi-Oh
is popular because it was a good execution of the card game in digital form, not necessarily for the theming of the War of the Roses. Is that?
It was interesting
accurate?
because it, again, had characters that like you weren't going to see in the show, and that maybe were characters that were brought up from the manga too. So like that was really the takeaway. Was like I want to see like who they've involved in this and what their decks look like. So yeah, the idea was to be playing against cards you might not have seen before and see like different combinations of cards.
And so, did they make these cards for the actual card game at some point, or they only exist within this game?
No, yeah, like I'm fairly certain all of the cards that are in this game, in this digital game, already existed. We were already playing with them. Like they're really familiar, and in fact, like I think most of the popular ones were on the TV show, way ahead of the game.
So it's really a transmedia experience that we're having here.
Yeah.
So by the time you played this game, you were familiar with most of this content already. You just wanted to play against an AI that was
Yeah.
presented basically to you.
Well, the big thing is that the show like taught you one way of playing that was not like at all correct most of the times. It was just like made up for whatever the show was.
Dramatic purposes.
Yeah, like dramatic purposes, and this was like a truer like so this is the way to play, like this is what the creators intent the game to be. Because unless you were going to tournaments and like kind of staying on top of what the rules looked like, it was kind of everyone made up their own rules when they got together. You kind of just decided at this sitting like, oh, we're gonna not play with this or play with these cards.
Who should I side with? The Yorkists or the Lancastrians?
The Yorkists.
Yorkist it is. Still talking. I really thought that was going to be a moment in which I got to... So there's a lot of... Maybe this is like an educational game because it got kids to read a lot? Is that one of the benefits of... There's a lot of text here. This is a... So if I had a student who was making this game and they showed me this, I'm like, when do I get to play? Would be how... Like, that tutorial took a long time, but this is also just a ton of stuff to read. As... When you were first playing this game, are you devouring this text and like really into it?
Yeah.
Do you think it's our modern sensibilities that don't want us to read as much text as the problem? Like if they remade this game, they would just do cutscenes for this and people would enjoy
Probably. Well, if they remade it, they'd definitely not have this much text. But I remember when I was
Oh.
playing it, I didn't mind at all because again, since this world only existed within this moment, everyone wanted to know who the Yorkists were.
Sure.
What is their new spin on this world, and how are the characters actually involved in it?
Okay, so I'm gonna go to Windsor.
Yeah.
Oh my god, that's England. That's so cool.
I mean, yeah. Is it? I guess. It's very weird that I'm playing this, like, very clear anime game that takes place in the 1400s in England. Okay, so I'm a tactical warrior. Where's my opponent? Oh, I'm fighting this dancing elf. That doesn't seem that hard. I'm just gonna roll up on him, see what happens. Do you recommend that? Should I do something different?
Probably want to set a card on the field to start.
Okay.
So you want to select the place on the map, and then
So like here?
no, like right in the vicinity of your cards.
So, okay. So
And now, just as we're beginning our Yu-Gi-Oh match, unfortunately, we're running out of time. But you know, that's how things go, right? Your parents come and tell you to clean up your Legos. You gotta go to school now. You gotta go to soccer practice.
I was totally gonna Yu-Gi-Oh all over this dancing elf. It was gonna go down. I was like primed to win a battle, but that's okay. Maybe we'll play later.
Maybe we'll return to this in another week,
Yeah,
maybe, and come back to Yu-Gi-Oh, because I think our audience is pretty into the Yu-Gi-Oh.
Yeah. Yes.
Well, thank you so much, Matt and Mary.
Thank you for teaching me Yu-Gi-Oh. I'll see you next week, everybody at home, when we play Days Gone, which remember to be in the description.
All right.
See it. War of the Roses.
Okay, let's transition to our
Bye,
next
everybody.
segment. Thank
Bye.
you.
Right.
Good job.
Do you have your mic still?
Yeah.
Can you give your mic to Frank, please? And here's your mic.
Thank you.
So our next segment, don't worry, we'll come back to Yu-Gi-Oh at another week. Patience.
Heart of the Cards, guide me.
Oh, wait, is that from Yu-Gi-Oh?
Isn't it?
Frank, do you play Yu-Gi-Oh?
No.
I just used to watch the cartoon a lot.
Yeah. I had a small child who watched the cartoon.
Nice. Yeah, I watched some of the I know it mostly is a cartoon, probably,
Yeah.
than the game.
Yeah, here's what I don't know. Which is more powerful, Exodia or Blue Eyes White Dragon?
Exodia.
Exodia.
Right?
So
That's what I thought.
Exodia, in fact,
powerful.
Exodia, this is actually a useful term to know because Exodia is now a kind of general purpose gamer term
Right, for just
whatever is currently super dominant and
Right.
overpowered in the current meta.
Yeah.
So
I think
like
that needs to be taken down.
late game Murlocs is Exodia in Hearthstone
Right, okay.
Battlegrounds.
Let's scoot a little
Here,
bit to the
now.
left to get in
This-
frame a little bit more.
This way? Yeah, okay.
Okay, and then let's see if...
Stream
Yeah,
left.
so sorry, we're not going to talk
Chat
much
right,
We're not
stream
going to
left.
talk more about Yu-Gi-Oh.
Aren't we?
Well, we
Maybe
could just make
not.
it all Yu-Gi-Oh, but instead we're talking about the Nintendo PlayStation.
Yes. Let's jump right in.
Yeah, so the
Hey, chat.
Nintendo PlayStation, a rare machine that was born out of a collaboration back in the 80s, I think, late 80s, early 90s, between Sony and Nintendo, made the news this week because it was being auctioned.
Yeah.
And Palmer Luckey, the founder of Oculus, and also sort of infamous for, I don't know, something having to do with border security that
I
he's
don't
contributing to
know.
for the
just-
Trump administration.
He's infamous. He's an infamous dork.
Yes,
Yeah.
he has a pretty significant figurine collection that I've seen
Oh.
in some photos. Like on his expensive mantelpiece, he has like
Oh my God, all the batteries.
a sexy vinyl figurine. We're running.
How are we
we're
sounding,
running low
Chad?
on
Can you hear
batteries.
us?
Here, someone take my mic. You might have
Oh.
to share a mic. I don't know if we can find the battery.
Should we just
Pass it back and forth?
Should we just clip it to the coffee cup?
Yeah,
in
sure.
the
Let's see
center?
if we can
It makes the effect.
go for it. See if that works. We're gonna try this jury-rigged approach. I'm sorry, this coffee cup is.
Yeah,
Yeah,
sorry,
weird
all our
Japanese-
batteries are dying. Uh-oh.
Where's your class assistants, Robert? Can you guys hear us?
How's that? Give
Flying
us
solo. today.
chat. Help us out. How do we sound? What are the? Give us a levels. Palmer Lucky.
Well,
can hack
whoever's
off.
transcribing is doing great.
This tiger, that lion.
Yeah,
Thesis
so-
tiger.
So
No, this is tiger. I thought it was thesis tiger. That was maybe one of our students.
Right.
A
So
lot of Thesis Tigers.
so this so Palmer Luckey was a high bidder on this Nintendo PlayStation.
Yes.
But then someone was outbidding him, so he went on Twitter. He was like, "Who's trying to beat me at this? I really need this Nintendo PlayStation." Lane Nooney, a colleague of ours
Mm-hmm. Yep.
over in
Shout out to Lane.
yeah MCC,
Mhm.
different department, but is one of the better game historians out there,
Yeah.
specializing in looking at like the relationship of labor and games and how games actually get made at specific
Yeah.
companies like Sierra Online.
One of the great game historians.
Yeah,
really,
exactly.
Contemporary game historians. Just
So-
doing super good work.
She had shots fired that sort of turned into this news story where she said to Palmer Luckey, like, could you maybe help preserve video games at an institution of some sort instead of amassing your own gigantic private collection?
Right.
And they got into an argument because Palmer Luckey was like, how do you know?
Well, Palmer
that
Luckey,
I'm- yeah.
Palmer Luckey was just you're flat wrong. End of story.
Oh, that's right.
Period.
That was his
I think something along those
it was a good
lines.
tweet. Yeah.
And no, this was one where I was honestly I was a little bit conflicted because I love Lane. Lane's a good friend. Obviously, Lane's the hero in the story, and Palmer Luckey
It's
is
the
an infamous
easy
villain.
hero, yeah.
And this was a great dunk on Palmer Luckey, but it was just a dunk. It was
Right.
just a dunk, and I kept looking at it and thinking, how does this? What's the end game here? How does this help? In the larger cause of preserving. And also, do I care about that larger cause as much as Lane does?
This tweet is fine, right? It's just basically saying
No, even in
something
the
that does-
original tweet, she's like, listen, if you want to feel like a powerful person, then you go ahead and you bid on this thing. But if you really want to help game, so it's
you're saying
already
it's like
super
too much of a dunk.
Yeah,
it's
it was
not an
already
incisive
it was already
criticism?
contentious and which is fine. I mean, again, Palmer Luckey,
Right.
it's just a target walking around in sneakers. You
Sure,
know?
and the broader point is whatever. Like we shouldn't be relying on
Right, but how
people's
is this-
individual wealth
Right,
to
but,
like
but is
accomplish
this
social
broader
goods.
point that Lane is making? Is it being communicated? Is it actually is it in this little exchange on Twitter? Is it are we helping move that ball down the field?
That's a
I don't know.
question
Maybe it's an
about-
unfair thing to
That's
ask.
a big meta question for the discourse in general.
Yeah, but I'm not a huge fan of picking arguments with people you do not respect and have no interest in
And
persuading.
actually talking to. Yeah.
And Lane
As an
really
object
seemed to
lesson?
enjoy this. She printed out the response and is carrying it around and like retweeting it all the time. And it's like, I don't know. This is not. It's not my
yeah.
preferred style of interaction. But so anyway, that was my contrarian take.
The news story for me is like Palmer Luckey took the bait. That was stupid.
Yeah.
And actually here's what I think.
Okay.
I think he's actually, from looking at the responses to this, he got bothered enough that he was pressured to make some statements about how he's going to actually publicize like what he's doing with his giant collection,
Yeah.
and that he's going to think about like how to make create public access to this.
Good.
Now he may have already had those plans in mind,
Mm-hmm.
or maybe he had them written on a napkin that he threw away or whatever, right? But this kind of like little social eruption, this kerfuffle leads to like actually him kind of saying, all right, he put it out there, like I'm going to try and be accountable.
Yeah.
Maybe that's the best that we can hope for in a world where, I don't know, like a lot of extremely rich people, they're definitely thinking about their private collections first, and then if they have even more money, then they like start giving it away to institutions.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
I think it's a good outcome.
Yeah. Okay, let's keep going forward. What's next on there? Oh yeah, so this was just if you're interested in this topic, the New York Times had an article a couple weeks back about the increasing like collector's market for rare video
Yeah,
games.
and we sometimes complain that the New York Times isn't covering video games enough. But look here, they're covering the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Sega
Yeah.
Sega Ultra Cart. So I mean, there is a lot of coverage
But
really if you dig for
they're
it.
covering
Yeah.
them as objects, just not
There you
cultural
go.
objects.
Yeah.
They're covering them as sealed plastic objects that can never be opened. That they have no cultural value. They just have monetary value.
We- yeah. Next.
Yeah, keep on going.
Yeah.
Speaking of money, the IRS briefly, I think actually since the last fall, had something up on their website saying,
Yeah.
"Look, we're going to tax virtual currency."
Yeah.
Even the ones that were mentioned included
Yeah.
the currency from Fortnite. And my understanding, so they just backtracked on this. My understanding was that eventually somebody noticed and freaked
Yeah.
out because this freaks people out,
Right.
like in the business side of games when they hear about this, because it would have massive financial repercussions. And it probably just is going to at some point, right? Like at some point, some government or the EU or somebody's going to be like, look, this is all taxable.
This is endlessly confusing. People have never been able to wrap their heads around what is the ontological status of the gold piece in World of Warcraft. Is it a currency? Is it a fictional currency? Is the dollar real in a way that the gold piece is not?
Right. It's all fiat
to a certain degree, I blame Ed Castronova, a game scholar who for many years had a very famous MMO blog called Terra Nova.
And he was saying like, no, these are all the same.
Exactly. So he made a very strong argument for the fact that, oh no, the World of Warcraft gold piece is just another currency, just like a dollar or a Bitcoin. To my mind, the World of Warcraft gold piece is profoundly different. Like its central difference is that it is fictional on purpose, right? It is like a painting of a dollar.
We're not supposed to believe in it.
But on the other hand, its status is always ambiguous and unresolved, and it's partly like the job of video games to be confusing. The job of video games is at least partly to create this ontological confusion where we're not really sure what we're looking at.
And the job of the IRS is to be like, let's eliminate the confusion so that we can figure out how much money the government can take in, right? So that's like this interesting conflict happens right there. And
it really is. The people do have crappy careers inside of EVE Online and World of Warcraft.
Well, here's what they put the stake in the ground at a certain point. They said, as long as you can't take the currency out, as long as you can't translate it back into real currency, then we're not going to tax it. Oh.
Yeah, we all know that there are many ways
of course that's happening
crossing
all the time,
that line.
But it's illicit. And I think this gives game companies more of an incentive to be like, you cannot take this out.
Do you think it's possible that the SEC at some point might refer to Johann Huizinga and the Magic Circle
if you cross the Magic Circle, then you're immigrating into the real world, and if you are bearing financial instruments that transform into actual dollars,
and then there will be a swarm of game study people like, well, he actually didn't even really talk about the Magic Circle that much.
Here's what I think. This is probably already happening. I think
right.
There are people who are making huge amounts of money translating digital-only currencies into government currencies, and those people are getting tracked down and taxed.
Yes.
Yeah. So this is kind of already happening, and if people are trying to do it through Fortnite currency or whatever, then there are people out there. They're probably underfunded in the current government, but there are people out there whose job it is to be like, let's try to see if we can keep you from laundering a lot of money that way.
I wonder what's happening right now. So remember Counter-Strike skins? And remember, skins. For a while there was a multi-billion-dollar industry, in skins gambling. We're just skins casinos. People using Counter-Strike weapon skins as a currency. It got kind of cracked down on because I think it was embarrassing. Gabe Newell was like, someone pointed out to him that there was this multi-billion-dollar industry of teenagers gambling.
Right. And then there were probably some organized crime figures involved.
I wonder what's currently happening that we're not noticing.
Yeah, there's definitely
there's going to be something happening, and I would be curious about that. That's we should be.
This is how William Gibson comes up with ideas for new cyberpunk novels.
So Patricia Hernandez should be covering that.
Definitely. Get out there, investigative reporters.
Jackson,
All right, let's keep going. This is an interesting long-form piece that actually. So Nico Deo is writing for Vice here, I think, right? This is on Vice. And has been playing Blizzard games since early, Warcraft editions for more than a decade. Yeah. And is pointing out that there's actually sort of a pattern of Blizzard female protagonists where they all kind of have, they end up with kind of purplish, pale skin, and they're horribly traumatized or tortured. Yeah. Everything short of being raped, which is the sort of more traditional trope of this kind. Yeah. And then they become like twisted villains, eager to take their revenge on humanity, or sort of bring about destruction. And the interesting thing about this piece is that Nico Deo points out, video games are kind of just picking up where comic books left off in the 90s. And I was like, I guess that's right. Blizzard is just kind of carrying on the work of John Byrne. Right. But
I like this piece. I thought it was okay. It was sort of, I wish that Nico had been writing in a mode that was a little bit more firmly in cultural criticism, literary criticism, media criticism, and a little bit less in this kind of, I think where they ended up with there's a kind of contemporary mode of talking about these things, which is all about this kind of vague sense of disapproval. And it's almost like medical. It's like, oh, what's wrong with the people at Blizzard? Let's psycho profile them.
Right, it has to be a hot take. That's a bit of a dunk on Blizzard.
It's sort of this interpretive process of like, ooh, how can we finally parse this cultural content in order to find out where it sits in our, disapproval rating for how people treat each other and what their psychopathologies are.
Right.
Which is fair enough. Like, culture is a giant garbage heap of people's psychopathologies. Like art and culture and media is always going to be riddled with these like weird, reflections of people's attitudes about humans and women and relationships.
Right. And if this piece had been a little bit more in that, like, let's do some serious criticism, well, it still would have been interpreted by a large number of readers as being like a critical dunk on Blizzard, right? Just because that's the sort of the context that all this is going into.
But I do think that you can get out ahead of that partly with the tone in which you're writing. I think there's an authoritative a cultural criticism that does not apologize for like, in unpacking the things that it's looking at, because we all know that we're doing it within the context of this is a deepening our understanding and appreciation of this problematic thing that we all like, right? This is how Pauline Kael, writes about film. Whereas in this case, it's a little bit like, well, what is this mode? You know what I mean? It's a little. Am I being asked to boycott Blizzard? Am I being told that like?
So, right? This is like a fan of Blizzard is right.
Exactly.
Right?
So yeah.
But yeah, it's tricky to navigate. I mean, I'm super interested just in this particular type of character because it shows up so often in like late 20th century genre fiction.
Right.
And there's like something historical going on there that I like. Yeah, if you dug into this deeper, I think you'd start to find really interesting things. I see this kind of thing as a reaction to the appearance of like let's empower the female character so that she's no longer a princess being rescued. Now she's powerful. Then this is the sort of counter cycle to that.
Of course.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so like that's the story that I think is really interesting to tell here. And yeah, probably a super interesting version of this piece would be like interview Chris Metzen about like, why did you become the latest person obsessed with this?
Like in some ways, this is what winning looks like, right? In some ways, like the project of having representation of women in pop culture be more complex and nuanced and subtle. We are slowly winning that battle, and what winning looks like is losing at a higher level.
Sure,
you know what I mean?
You churn underneath, and because these are all like, well, let's try to make these female heroes more complicated.
They are more complicated.
They're more complicated because they were like raped as children,
right?
Whatever, right?
Yeah. And so, but that's life, right? As you climb the ladder of culture,
not literally,
right? As you improve. No, I'm just saying that as your art becomes more sophisticated, as your pop culture becomes more nuanced and sophisticated, it also becomes more perverse and problematic at a higher level.
Well, because it first goes through this phase where a whole bunch of guys are being asked to write powerful female characters, and they're like, well, how do I make this character
first
interesting?
It's just like a hot barbarian chick in a
right, yeah, and then the hot barbarian chick is like screwed up because something bad happened to her. But like, I don't know. This happens in a certain way because of who's doing it too.
This doesn't end.
No, probably
right. It doesn't
not.
end. Yeah. Let's keep going.
Yeah, I can keep on moving ahead. Similarly, I don't know if this is a related thing, right?
Oh, yeah.
So there was this is from Persona 5. There were two scenes in that game where there's this caricature of a certain kind of middle-aged Japanese gay guy, actually based on two comedians who kind of mainstreamed gayness in Japan back in the 80s, but who did so by being kind of like jokey caricatures of like lecherous gay uncle who's always wearing flamboyant clothes. Yeah. And they made the talk show circuits a lot. But Persona 5 had a parody of those guys, and it was kind of mean-spirited, and it was like they're preying on teenage boys.
Yeah.
So now, I think this is the localization team doing this. That's my understanding. They're saying, okay, there were enough complaints for this that we're taking those scenes, we're editing those scenes for the American audience. What's interesting here, I think, is that there's no mention of making any changes to the Japanese version. It's really something that the like localizers are stepping in to being like, we have to think about cultural sensitivity.
Yeah.
And my read is that's in part because people who care about representation of gay people in Japan have written off games as a hopeless cause that they don't care
Really?
about. That's my general understanding, which I think is too bad. But when I've talked to gay people in Japan, they're like, we have more important things to worry about than than the nerds being homophobic in their games.
Even like visual novels, there's not a
visual novels. I think there's
rich queer subculture.
No,
in that
there
genre.
definitely
yeah,
is.
I imagine.
But I don't think that I think the culture of like, should we criticize? I forget what the name of the Persona 5 lead writer is, but he's this guy who's very obviously deeply scared of being hit on by a gay man. Yeah, and he's around the same age as me. I think actually we may have gone to one of the same schools in Japan for a brief period of time, but. He just reminded me of people that I grew up with there who were the most terrifying thing that could happen to them is if they thought like some guy was like going to look at their dick in a bathroom. It's like they'd probably have a heart attack if he played a Robert Yang game. But yeah, and so like this is the stuff that comes out, right? It's like, ooh, I'm going to put like a funny gay scene in it, and it's usually some kind of terror of gay people. Yeah. But I think, I don't know, like
It seems good that they're rewriting these
it
problematic
is.
scenes.
But it's also like they're doing it. It's being framed as like, well, there's a demand from these Western people to change it, and I think that that in some ways that's accurate. Even though there is a big queer movement in Japan, I don't think that they like
West is
fix,
best,
fix
right?
the
Right,
fix
guys?
Persona 5 is high on their list.
Western culture,
Yeah.
right? Western civilization.
Beefy trendsetter. All right, let's keep on moving.
What's this? Oh, No Man's Sky. Okay, Gita
Yeah.
Jackson. Shout out to Gita Jackson.
This is a great piece.
Writing another cool thing. I love articles like this. Weird things happening in
Online
games,
games,
subcultures. Who is the Robert Moses of this story, and who is the Jane Jacobs?
It's
That's
a good
what I
question.
want to know. Yeah.
So when I first read this, I had got the wrong perception because it's about two communities in conflict with each other. One of them has sort of created a dense cluster of colonies with thousands of players sort of exploring a set of worlds in great depth and kind of cataloging everything.
Hold on a second.
And it's sort of
Thousands? How many players are we talking about here?
20,000 are on the
Really?
Reddit.
20,000 on the Reddit.
On the Reddit.
20,000 Reddit registered people. It's
Yeah.
100 people, right? This is we're really discussing like a performance among a very hardcore. This is like when ARGs get people start
sure.
writing about ARGs in the front page of the Wall Street Journal. Really, we're talking about a handful, like hundreds
Right.
of people who are dedicating themselves to
Right.
this little
But they are
subculture and creating
performing,
something
right?
really beautiful
It's
and interesting. Yeah,
because
yeah.
they're producing a lot of material because
Yeah.
they're exhaustively exploring this small region of space.
Yes.
And creating a little community there. And then the other community is like, let's create a highway that leads between the center of the galaxy, which is where
Right.
the single player campaign kind of ends, right? And then to this location so that people know how to get there. And I thought that what the story was going to be sort of like I don't know, why are you bringing way too many people into our small community?
Yeah, but it was the
But
opposite.
it's the opposite.
It's like your highway is going to be too popular.
Yeah.
And it's going to, like, we're trying to make a place where people can gather in this giant, sprawling, empty, tedious, boring game.
Right.
And you're making a thing that is
It's
maybe
like
going to
long and
leech
thin
people
and
away. Yeah.
diffuse, and like people are not going to. They're going to settle along the road instead
Right.
of actually coming to the destination at the end.
It's a bizarre and fascinating little
Yeah,
psychodrama.
it's-
And I think the people involved are half aware of the fact that they are trying to kind of conjure up a little bit of a controversy. It's a
Right.
little bit of an EVE Online thing where they like, we all know that we're kind of pretending to be diplomats and spies, and at the same time they are sort of doing
Right.
it. So there's a genuine sense of, hey, we're trying to build a community here, but also a sense in which they're play acting at building a community.
Right.
And it's that same kind of ambiguous ontological status that games are so good at creating.
And
It's
the
like, it's
Railroad
confusing.
Tycoon is banned from the
Yeah.
hub area. I don't know whether that's just like a political ban. Like I don't know if they have any way of enforcing that in No Man's Sky, right?
Yeah.
Maybe he's kill on sight or something. But
Yeah.
it is
Yeah.
it is a funny little play that's being enacted.
Yeah. What's next?
Oh yeah, I thought you would be interested in this.
Yeah.
This is the Harvard Business Review. I don't know what passes for like sort of a serious but
Also lighthearted.
yeah, serious but lighthearted business publication is saying like the social media numbers are dropping, especially in the U.S., especially among young people, and that people are fleeing towards what they're describing as three other types of interactions. One is basically group texts, right, where you're like talking with 5 of your friends.
Yeah.
And I think we probably remember that as like AOL Instant Messenger was
Sure.
basically you'd be with a bunch of your friends and talking
Yeah.
during work or something, right?
Yeah.
And then the second one is small micro communities like on Discords.
Mhm.
And then the third one is hanging out in games,
Yeah.
right? So I kind of feel like, yeah, I've been thinking that this was going to happen
Yeah.
for a while.
The thrust of this argument is that if you look at social media,
Yeah.
the big mainstream social media, it's becoming less and less young people are using these
Right.
big
That's right.
central monolithic services, and they're more and more scattering into these smaller,
Right, yeah.
fragmented and local kinds of things, which is just like, of course. Like,
Yeah.
of course
Like,
this was
why
going to
would
happen.
you wanna be-
Can we
Yeah.
can we go back in time and not read all of these articles?
Yeah.
We're like, no, we're all dying because of Twitter and Facebook. It's like, no, it's going to be fine, right?
Right,
We're
just
it's-
everybody has an exodus, and then there
Yeah.
still is this street. But like, yeah, nobody wants to just hang out all day on the main highway
Yeah.
thoroughfare.
unless you're a
which is full of
boomer.
garbage.
Unless you're a boomer, at which point, right, time will just solve that problem.
Yeah, you'll be dead, is what you're saying.
Just can't wait.
Um,
So yeah, so,
So what does this
it's
mean
nice.
for-
It's optimistic. It's like, yeah, these things do move in waves, and it's very difficult for the world to become too uncool. Because young people will always be hypersensitive to
leave.
coolness,
Yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
they'll be looking for cool
They'll go
alternatives
somewhere
to
else.
the dumb, uncool thing that they're that old people do.
right. So how does this stuff
That's
get
the
better?
solution to Facebook. It's not going to be some, algorithm. It's not that we can yell at Facebook until they solve this problem
like
with some
make-
magic
Yeah,
algorithm.
make
no,
this giant garbage river better.
your kids are solving this problem by not going within 10 feet of Facebook,
Right.
right? So stop yelling.
And I think it does relate to games as well, right? What do we have the Animal Crossing one on here? It's like one of those right up ahead. Yeah, so Animal Crossing New Horizons, trailer just dropped this morning.
Yeah,
It's a 8-person game. It's like a little
Yeah.
micro community.
yeah,
You play it online or with your family in your home, like traditionally you would play Animal Crossing.
yeah.
Or you play with a bunch of other people, and it's a community of 8.
Pick to click. That's what I'm saying right now. You heard it here first. This is going to be a huge success. Get in early,
Wow,
folks.
that's a real
Pick to
real
click.
gamble.
The discourse. You put it on the back of the box right now. Pick to click, right? Do you agree?
Yeah,
It's
sure.
gonna be great. A little 8-person.
This is easy. I don't think you get really good like high odds on that one. The thing that's interesting here is there's more progression than in traditional Animal Crossing in some ways. I
Yeah.
think, although that was always about getting a worse mortgage. Now, once you get powerful enough on this island, you can
Yeah.
basically reshape the island in your own image.
Yeah,
And also create a planned community where you tell all the animals to live.
yeah.
Like you get to be Robert Moses. Speaking of Robert Moses,
Yeah.
this is the Robert Moses simulator of Animal Crossing.
Yeah. And we just talked about Robert Moses and Jane Jacobs in intermediate game design because we were doing level design and we were talking about architecture. And the thing that I was trying to explain to the students was that they have to understand the myth of Robert Moses the villain and Jane Jacobs the hero. But then they really should understand that it is a myth, right? And like all historical myths, that the truth is going to be much more
more
complex,
complicated.
you
Yeah,
know?
sure.
And so in this case, I think the tension between the systems of Animal Crossing, the grinding, the numbers, the collectibles, and the kind of non-systematic quality of Animal
Yeah,
Crossing,
like,
the emotional
I
connections.
want to make something beautiful.
Yeah, I
Maybe
think-
I want to talk to the other players about how I'm planning.
The
this.
relationship there is always going to be really complicated. Like
Yeah.
the grinding and the systems exist in order to be scaffolding for the non-systematic parts, so that I can gift you things,
Sure.
so that I can ignore them, right? So that I can
Yeah,
pervert
so I
them
can do
or
things in
subvert
spite
them.
of the fact
yeah.
that
And so these things are always have a very tangled, complex relationship. We should not reduce them to simplistic stories of good and evil and myths of
Sure.
villains and heroes.
Well, in some ways, it would be better if somebody figures out how to make the perfect, efficient Animal Crossing community where each animal lives in a 1x1 house.
Right. What's the
and
sim?
comes-
What's the Sim City?
Magnasanti?
Magnasanti.
Yeah,
Do you guys
I'm-
know Magnasanti? Yeah. Who will make the Magnasanti,
The Magnasanti of Animal Crossing.
of Animal Crossing?
If it's possible, then that's a truly deep
that could
game.
be that could be the first great artwork of the 21st century.
it could
if someone
be.
made Magnasanti and Animal
But
Crossing.
then what's important to remember, I think, in that is that Animal Crossing is not that, right? That's like what one person's vision might impose on it.
Right.
And then everyone else is sort of like resisting that ultimate nadir, that black hole of like total efficiency of
Yeah.
every animal comes out and shops in your factory store, your plantation store, and then you get to harvest more money from them.
Yes. The truth is that you can dismantle the master's house with the master's tools.
In Animal Crossing.
And that's what Animal Crossing proves. You can.
Okay, with that, I
And
guess
you
we're going to
must.
leave it there. Yeah, it's a moral imperative.
Yes.
Dismantle. Okay.
Thank you, Naomi, once
Sure,
again.
thank you. I'm glad we're back.
Wonderful discourse. Glad to be back. Thanks, chat.
Okay, that's our show. On that note, the Master's tools can dismantle the Master's house, apparently. You heard it here first, folks. Okay, thank you so much, everyone, for hanging out. That's our show. Let me just cut to our credits real quick. Let's see. Director, host, Robert. News co-host, Naomi. Naomi goes through and finds all these wonderful articles we find and talk about. So thank you so much, Naomi, for your labor. Operator, I was flying solo today. I'm going to delete Martin's name because Martin was not helping me today. I was just solo doing the whole streamer thing. Graphics treatment is by Winnie Song, and captioning's by Mirabai Knight of Steno Night Cart Services. Thank you so much, Mirabai. And thank you, everyone, for hanging out with us. I hope you learned something about Yu-Gi-Oh! And the War of the Roses, and Jane Jacobs and Animal Crossing. We covered a lot of topics today, right? All right, well, thank you so much, and have a good rest of your day. Bye.